Good afternoon. I've got a few minutes past 4:30, so we're going to get started. It says as a reminder, I think we already got the message out, but if you're online, please mute your phones and turn those cameras on if you can. We want to see all those smiling faces. So we're here it is. We're at I guess the July 11th. Is that today? Yeah. The July 11th, I guess we'll call this our WOW experience. Last year was more on leadership. This year, we're kind of doing more on customer interactions, coworker interactions, and then general customer WOW experiences. So we're starting the third book in our series this year, and it's a book by an author we've studied before, Ken Blanchard and Barbara Glanz. Ken Blanchard actually wrote Raving Fans, but this book is The Simple Truths of Service, inspired by Johnny the Bagger. So if you haven't read it yet, I would encourage you to read it. It's one of the simpler reads that we have. And I'm gonna get right into this story of Johnny the Bagger. And this image that you're looking at is actually from a movie. It's about a 15 or 16 minute movie that you can find on YouTube. In fact, we will include a link to it that's based on the Johnny the Bagger story. We'll include a link in it when we send out the follow-up, and that includes this presentation along with, again, a link to that video. So if you have 15 or 16 minutes, it's not, I wouldn't call it Academy Award material, but it's worth 15 or 16 minutes if you got the time. So if you're not familiar with the story, Johnny the Bagger, the author of the book, Barbara Glanz, actually puts on seminars, and the grocery store that Johnny worked for actually went to a seminar that she was putting on. And they were looking for ways to train their staff on how to better serve customers, how to make a difference in the lives of the customers. So he attended the seminar, and the author of the book, he heard from her that everyone can make a difference and create meaningful memories for your customers that will motivate them to come back. So that triggered Johnny thinking about what could he do, and he's just a bagger of groceries. So what could he do to put his personal signature on the job? So, and I like that phrase. So how do we put our personal signature on everything that we do each and every day? So what he finally decided to do was find a daily thought for the day that he would share with his customers by putting them in the bag, while at the same time thanking the customer for shopping with us. So that sounds like a pretty simple concept. And of course, the name of the book, again, is The Simple Truths of Service. So he started doing that, and it was such a big hit. I'm not going to go into all the details, so you can read the first section of the book and all the specifics. But next thing you know, the manager is walking through the store, and there's this line at Johnny's aisle. There's other cash registers open, but there's nobody in those particular lines. And he was making his rounds. He found the checkout line was 3 times longer than anyone else's. And of course, he's asking what's going on. He's trying to tell the customer, there's other lines open. And of course, he gets the message that they all wanted to be in that line so they could get Johnny's thought for the day. So what happened was, and this is typical when somebody is going above and beyond, so Johnny's work led to others at the store developing ways to better serve and wow their customers. So one individual set an example, others in the store saw what he was doing and how he was impacting their customers. So the first thing that you read about and it happened was the floor department started giving broken flowers to elderly women and little girls in the store. So if they had some flowers they weren't going to be able to sell, they would walk around and find individuals in the store they could give them to or pin on their clothing for them. One of the butchers was a Snoopy Charlie Brown fan, so one of the butchers started putting Snoopy stickers on the meat he was wrapping. And then over time, all the cashiers developed their own personal signature of some kind. So ultimately, the lesson from this was everyone in the room or in the store, in this case, can make a difference. We can all be a Johnny. And this kind of goes back to things that we've talked about in the past in the personal interactions, because ultimately, whether it's working here, whether you're working anywhere else, you're with family, neighbors, friends, church, whatever, but specifically with business, and Kim Blanchard has a great quote in the book. The one thing your competition can't take away from you is the relationship your people have with your customers. So ultimately, that is how you distinguish yourself from others. It's, there's a lot of companies that do roofing. There's a lot of companies that do air conditioning type work. There's a lot of companies that insulate houses. There's a lot of companies that have to answer the phone. There's a lot of companies that have to answer emails. A lot of companies that do social media. But ultimately, it's about that interaction and that relationship that we develop with our customers. That's the one thing that our competition can never take away from us. So ultimately, Johnny the Bagger is what inspired this book. And Ken and Barbara came up with these 10 simple truths of service. And I'm gonna get through the first 5 today. So the first simple truth of service is great service inspires stories. So if we do something that really impacts somebody, really wows somebody, they're going to tell that story. And the first example that he uses is his mom needed, Ken's mom needed a appliance repair person, and she couldn't find one. It was something, I think, with her ice maker, if I remember correctly. And so they needed something quick. And looking around and calling around, they couldn't find anybody to come quick enough. But they did find somebody that advertised same-day service. And so they called, and sure enough, somebody was able to get out there the very same day. So that inspired her to tell that story. So great service inspires stories, hopefully positive stories, but those stories are going to be told. And ultimately, all the marketing we do, all the social media stuff we do, all the stuff that we intentionally do, lettering our trucks, wrapping our trucks, everything that we do related to what marketing or advertising really does bring in customers. But ultimately, every year when we do surveys, ultimately it is word of mouth and the work that we do. That's what brings in the most business every year. And we've been tracking this and asking questions of our customers for a very long time. And I don't think we would have the growth that we do without the marketing and specific advertising and marketing that we do. But it's still about that interaction and the stories that customers and frankly, coworkers are telling about GSM. That is how the consistent long-term growth occurs. So the second simple truth of service is great service uses outside the box thinking. Now, I'm not a big fan of that phrase outside the box just because it's been used for so long, and that is the exact phrase that he uses in the book. And he relates that to the same appliance repair guy or handyman services how was he able to guarantee and claim and advertise same-day service? Well, if you haven't read the book, basically what he does is he got a large group of, he advertised for individuals who mainly retired, had time on their hands, and were good fixing things, needed something to do. So he ended up putting together about a group of, he says, about 30 individuals who were on standby, ready to go work on things like refrigerators. And so that's how he was able to do that. He wasn't, they weren't employees of his. He didn't open up some company with guys just ready to go out and do this service. So he did think differently. That is, even in today, there are organizations or you might call people like, I don't know, well, Duke Energy does something similar. Angie's List has a group of companies that are approved to do work. Google, Home Services. So there are big organizations who kind of utilize something similar, but not something on a small scale like this in a small area. So that's what he means in this particular case, that the guy used some outside the box thinking in order to be able to provide same day service. So that's the first two items. The third, well, I'm sorry, I forgot one quote that he used, really good quote in the book related to this. So how do you get to the point where some ideas or thoughts are outside the box thinking? I like this quote: the best way to have a good idea is to have lots of ideas. I think if you're not, when you talk about innovation, doing something that's different, separating yourself from competition, you have to have a lot of ideas that you ultimately throw away in order to find a few that might actually work. And so I like this. I wanted to specifically talk about this for a second. Is, again, let me repeat that. The best way to have a good idea is to have lots of ideas. Because my experience is that you're not just going to sit around all of a sudden in 5 minutes brainstorming, you're going to come up with the best idea, or some 30-person group that's going to be able to have give you same day service. The third simple truth of service is great service is a choice. Now, if you remember our study of Raving Fans, again, which was a book written by Ken Blanchard, this is an example that we read about in Raving Fans. So, in great service is a choice. So we have Wally the cab driver. So I don't know if anybody has been in a cab or even Uber recently. It's been a while since I've been in a cab, but my experience in cabs, I'm not sure I could say my experience in cabs is real positive, and it sure isn't. I don't remember Wally ever driving the cab that I happened to get into. So what did Wally do that went above and beyond the typical cab service? So first thing that stood out was it was just clean. The vehicle was clean. When you get inside the vehicle, guess what? It was clean on the inside. He had coffee, soda, water, and orange juice that he offered. It was actually, I think it was Harvey McKay is actually who shared this story with Ken, is where this came from. He had newspaper and magazines, had a list of radio stations and the type of music they played. He offered to chat and describe the sights along the route, or leave the rider to his own thoughts. So how and why did Wally start serving customers like this? So he's talking, that's the point, is where did he decide, where did he make the decision, where did he make the choice to serve customers this way? And this is typical. I think it's when somebody is exposed to some new idea, some new thought. Frankly, everything that we do new here at GSM is probably the same way. We're exposed to another company, we're exposed to another industry, we read something, we hear about something on the customer service side. So Wally read a book by Wayne Dyer called "You'll See It When You Believe It." Let me repeat that title. Most of the time, the common phrase you hear is you'll see it. I mean, you'll believe it after you see it. Well, he's saying you'll see it when you believe it. So the quote from Wayne Dyer related to this is, and I think this was in Raving Fans or something similar to this: if you get up in the morning expecting to have a bad day, you'll rarely disappoint yourself. Stop complaining, differentiate yourself from your competition. Don't be a duck, be an eagle. Ducks quack and complain, eagles soar above the crowd. I think that's supposed to be above. Some bad grammar on my part. So Wally was exposed to this, made a decision that he was going to differentiate himself from his competition. And it's to the point that he has people calling him to set up appointments. And roughly, I think in 2 years, his income quadrupled as a cab driver. So the only way you're going to quadruple your income on a cab drop as a cab driver is you're going to work 24 hours a day, or you're going to be so good that you can charge more, get better tips, and just provide a higher level of service, which is the way that Wally did it. And he even took it a step further, because he's so busy and has so many appointments set, if he can't get to one of his customers, he gives them a referral to another reliable driver. So that's similar to some of the things we try to do here. Somebody calls in and we can't provide a specific service. We work hard to try to give them a referral of somebody we can rely on, which is harder than you would expect on some service to find somebody that we can rely on to give a referral to a customers. So Wally is always working to give their customers more than they expect to get. So you have a choice on how we're going to approach our day-to-day interactions with our customers and our coworkers. That's the third simple truth of service. The fourth simple truth of service is great service starts with a clear vision. Great service starts with a clear vision. So for us, it would be, how do we want that interaction to occur? What experience do we want our customers to have when they call us, when they email us, when they contact us through Google, when we show up to their home, we show up to their job site, when we show up to their building, when our truck drives up? What is the experience that we want our customers to have? And frankly, what is the experience we want our coworkers to have? So the example, this was another example that was also in Ravens Fans, but he used the example of a gas station. And as gas stations started to become self-service, there became a gap there, an opportunity for someone to step in and continue or elevate that full service experience. So he knew someone who actually did that. And actually, these were started originally in Canada, I believe. They were full service gas stations modeled after racing pit crews. Now, I'm not saying that they're going to come out and jump on your top of your windshield or your hood like this in this racing pit crew, but the point was that it was very quick and thorough service while the driver waited in his car. It's very unique. So again, as more service stations became self-service, in fact, I don't remember the last time I saw somewhere that I couldn't pump my own gas was up north somewhere. I was in Connecticut or somewhere where they don't allow, it's not allowed to pump your own gas. Okay. So, but it's very unique because there's no competition, at least, in most of the country. So someone would they pull up, three people come out, someone looks under the hood, someone would clean the windshields while someone would start pumping the gas, ask a few questions. They would do, minor things. If you remember from Ravens Fans, they would do minor things like top off fluids, check the oil, just do things that are definitely going to separate themselves from the competition. But before that happened, someone had to have the vision of what that was going to look like, because that's not something that's just going to happen in normal day-to-day operations without somebody really thinking about what kind of services how they wanted the service to look. All right, so the fifth simple truth of service is great service requires that everyone catch the vision. So just because somebody puts this vision together on paper, on plans, everyone involved has to be a part of that. Everyone involved has to understand the vision and what that experience needs to be. And I really like this example that he used. And I think it really goes to our industry as well. There's an organization called Give Kids the World. I think it's, if I remember correctly from the book, it's located in Orlando, Florida. And so they bring kids, it's similar to Make-A-Wish is what it sounded like, but it's specifically, I think, mostly for the Orlando area. And there's so many attractions and so many things like Disney World, Universal Studios. There's just so many opportunities in that area for kids to come and enjoy something that they might not be able to enjoy otherwise. So the question is, how far down in an organization does that vision go? So the great example that he used was at the actual location in Orlando, Florida. The grass cutter stated that he was making memories. So if we think about what we're doing every single day, if we view it that way, where we're I don't know, and when we answer the phone, the things that we do can be life and death for some people. They get too hot, they're uncomfortable. We keep their furnace running. We keep their air clean in their house. We keep, their life-giving equipment from getting rained on, getting leaked on when we're out doing roofing work. I mean, so there's so many things I think that that are undervalued, even the work that we do. So the grass cutter even took it even further. So he said, families would come by and you could tell which one of the kids was probably ill or the reason that they were there. And he would stop and ask them if they wanted to help him with his chores. So, jumping on say if it's a riding lawnmower especially, that might be quite an experience for some kids who maybe have never done that. So when he was out, he believed that he was making memories for those kids as opposed to just out there cutting the grass each week for this organization. So for us, how far down does our vision go here at GSM? Do we even know what our vision is? What is the vision that we have for the experience that we want? Another one, this reminds me of a story that I read about President Kennedy when he went to Houston to NASA, and he was walking through, and he had the habit of just talking to everybody when he went to visit a place like NASA. And as he was walking through, there was a gentleman sweeping the floor, and he stopped to talk to him. He says, "So what do you do here at NASA?" He goes, "Well, I'm helping get us to the moon." And he didn't say he was sweeping the floor. He said he was helping get the United States to the moon. And I think that's just a good example when someone realizes that they're a part of something bigger, an important part of something bigger, above the individual tasks that we might be doing on a day-to-day basis. So that's the first 5 simple truths of service. We're going to do a quick review of them. The first is great service inspires stories. So remember, this was the same day service from the handyman, appliance repair guy, and Ken Blanchard's mom was telling everybody about it. I got news for you. In the world we live in now, those stories can get out to a lot of people quick, good and bad. Everybody has a direct line to the internet, and where in the old days it would take somebody in person or a phone call to tell somebody about good or bad service. Now somebody can tell thousands of people in just a matter of seconds, frankly. Second one was great service uses outside the box thinking. So, and then again, the example here was that handyman had to come up with some way to be able to advertise same day service. And he did use outside the box thinking for appliance repair. And frankly, if you try to get any service done, even with us, if you're not a current customer, in the current labor environment and the current weather we're having here at GSM, at least on the residential side, if somebody calls right now at 4:56, we're not going to be able to guarantee you same day service. It's just not going to happen. Great service is a choice. Remember, Wally, the cab driver, made a choice of how he was going to treat his customers and how he was going to just go about his day-to-day operations. And he had to make a choice to be different, and he was able to differentiate himself big time. Fourth is great service starts with a clear vision. Where there is no vision, what's the phrase? Everyone will perish. So you got to have a vision on what that experience, what do you want that experience to be like? Again, that's both for customers and coworkers, for family, for anything that you're involved with. There needs to be a clear vision on how that's going to look. And then last is that vision has to spread down to everyone in the organization. So it doesn't matter what position you're in, who you're involved with, whether it's just a phone, you think it's just a phone call or just an email or just a service call. It's much more than that. So there are the first 5 simple truths of service. Again, if you haven't read the book, I would encourage you to get on that. It's a simple read. I read it, gosh, 3 or 4 years ago for the first time. And when I sat down to reread it, I literally probably read it in 20 or 25 minutes and made some great notes from it. So that is this week's session. To get back on schedule, we're going to get back. And so the next session will be next Monday, the 18th. And I'm assuming we will be going through 6 through 10 on the 6 through 10 simple truths of service. So I appreciate your time. And anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to us. Any suggestions on how we can better serve each other and our customers, we're always open to hear that. So thanks, everybody.